Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One. Thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece Double Retrograde. You can see the stainless steel complication on our website, watchyouwant.com. Purchase it there. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. You can also click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the video at any time to see our full listing for this watch, with accessories included, details of remaining warranty, and of course complete pricing for this very watch that you see here. Now on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, I have to remark on the incredible ergonomics of this 46mm case. 46mm across the round of the case, not counting pusher correctors or the crown. It's remarkably well planted for such a huge timepiece. Now normally a watch of this proportions will push the limits of my wrist and often push beyond those limits. But what I like about the watch is that it actually spreads its size quite reasonably around the wrist rather than across the wrist. So the lug-to-lug measurement is only 52mm, which is actually quite reasonable. And in terms of thickness, it's actually not bad. 14mm with a double-stepped and generously sloped bezel. This watch, although broad, can fit underneath most tight sleeves and cuffs. So with a versatile black dial, black leather, and white metal case combination, you're good to wear this one with a suit, but it has an overtly sporting style to it that also plays well in casual attire. Now when I talk about the way the watch really works with your wrist and meets you halfway, specifically I'm talking about these exceptionally short and dramatically downward turned lugs. Now you can see to good effect at this angle just how quickly and dramatically these lugs thrust down after they exit the outermost extremity of the case. They really don't add much to the span of the case, and they do help to plant the watch and anchor it on the wrist so it doesn't want to move side to side. Likewise, you can see how the strap, although very nicely underslung such that it's actually tucked and slightly countersunk into the case flank. Again, you've got all the visual coherence of a conforming end-piece strap, but you also have the freedom of movement to tuck the strap down and around the tight curve of a smaller wrist. And that's saying a great deal, because this is not just some ultra-thin, perfunctory piece. This is a beautifully custom-made strap with a lot of body, thickness, and substance as it approaches the case flank. You can actually see how generously it's bolstered and how progressively it's bolstered to actually match the swell of the lugs as it approaches the case. A lot of thought went into this strap. It feels substantial in the hand, it looks visually impressive, and it has a very impressive weight to it as well. It's not simply the feel of it, it's the sheer substance of it, the heft in the hand, that makes you feel as though Maurice Lacroix, which is one of the most vertically integrated manufacturers in the world, really went out of its way to glorify this watch with suitable accessories, and that continues in the clasp itself. Another element that Maurice Lacroix builds itself, you can see that it's nicely branded, but it also features a twin trigger deployment mechanism, which I will demonstrate to good effect here. This one is exceptionally fresh and beautifully finished with the satin exterior contrasting nicely with the fully polished interior. Wonderfully substantial, and again it has the security of being twin trigger, not friction fit. It closes with a satisfying snap, and you can see that it has a minder system underneath, so you don't have to worry about minder loops that prematurely age, wear out, and mar the look of the strap. Once again, a nice combination of a substantial strap and a well thought out clasp for a wonderful watch with a surprisingly nuanced and ambitious case design. There's a lot of character lines, complex curves, fluting, and you can also see the contrast between the satin finished flanks, the polished case back, and the polished double-stepped bezel. You can also see how there's a contrasting finish that's actually used on the lugs, which feature polished outer flanks, a step, and then satin finished inners. Very impressive. That's a lot of thought to place into a watch that is admittedly a high value proposition in the complicated horology segment. Worth noting, Maurice Lacroix also makes its own case as well as the movement within. Now the movement within is known as the ML151. You can see it chugging away at 18,000 vibrations per hour on the back. We'll talk about tech in a second, but first let's talk about interface, where the dial makes the best use of that huge 46mm span. Now you can see that although the bezel has impressive character from an oblique angle, from head on, the dial is allowed to breathe, open up, and dominate the aesthetic of this watch. The minute track, the hour track, the applied elements of the hour track, which are beautifully polished, are nicely complemented by the balance of a power reserve at 3, a a retrograde date at 6, constant seconds at 9, and a second independent time zone with a retrograding 24-hour scale at 12 o'clock. Now, there are pusher correctors on the case flank, and you can see how the retrograding system functions for the independent second time zone, the GMT. Likewise, you can see the other pusher corrector for the date at 6 o'clock and the retrograding action therein. This is a surprising amount of complication for a watch company that has only been building its own in-house movements since 2006. Now, when you do wind the watch, you can see the power reserve at 3 o'clock, energized in rather swift and dynamic fashion as I wind the onion-style crown. Now, it does supply a 52-hour power reserve, so winding this watch is a quality time, not all the time pleasure, something you'll do every other day. You can also see how the effective use of polished elements and grayscale animate the dial without going to extremes. Finally, I like to highlight the fact that the watch, although it does have a very formal black and white aesthetic that dominates, has gorgeous alpha hands at center that are fully loomed so that you can see this watch in low or no light conditions. A little bit of a sports watch flair right there. It also has that gorgeous in-house caliber, 52 jewels, built and adjusted in 5 positions entirely in-house by Maurice Lacroix. You can see that fundamentally the train drive and the barrel position in relation to the balance, the positions of the plates, the pivot jewels, it's very closely inspired by the ETA Unitas 6497, but the finishing and the execution is entirely Maurice Lacroix. Now you can see how it's been improved with a swan's neck regulator, elegant and traditional, but juxtaposed in its high polish against a gorgeous sort of spiral dressage that radiates out across the 3/4 plate, and it's nicely coated with a unique material that Maurice Lacroix calls black gold. There's also a tight and even perlage across the base plate beneath the balance, which is that classic oversized pocket watch style balance, chugging away, like I said, at 2.5 hertz. It's evocative, and it's got an old vintage style cadence to it when you hold it up against the ear, but make no mistake, the dial itself, the case treatment, and the combination of features on this watch are a remarkable avant-garde for a watchmaker that offers a compelling value proposition in high horology. You can see this Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece Double Retrograde in stainless steel and buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com.